At stage 4, this is the final stage, and this stage determines the outcome of the performance. It will either be positive or negative. The penalty taker will either hit the ball perfectly and score, but will do the exact opposite and miss the goal completely. Now I'm going to talk about types of stress and the causes of stress. There are a few individual causes of stress, internal causes of stress or external causes of stress. Internal causes of stress, this comes from inside of the body. Things such as a current injury, past memories, and the athlete's feeling of self-worth. A sporting example of this would be Eduardo, who broke his leg for Arsenal in 2008. This may have caused him internal stress because he would always be thinking about this accident when he was playing football. External stress. This is the surrounding of the performer, such as the competition that they are in, or the opponents they are facing, the weather they are performing in. An example of this would be an Olympics training schedule, whilst needing to travel for major competitions. As well as training, they would need to travel abroad, so they would miss their family, and also may not get the correct diet because they would be too tired. I'm now going to talk about personal factors athletes face. These can be from their friends, family, or just lifestyle factors such as finance. An example of this would be Ronaldinho, who was transferred to Barcelona. He had 2 good seasons there and then started to play badly because of his homesick and spending money on illegal drugs and drink. The athlete's occupation may also affect them because they may not be happy with their working partners or the occupation itself. For an example, this could be a professional netball player that needs another job alongside playing netball because her sport does not pay good money. This could be a negative effect because her job may not be what she wants to do, so it gets her down before playing her game of netball. The final cause of stress would be to do with the sport itself or the players and management around them. For example, David Beckham at Manchester United was not happy with the manager because they argued, so he left the team to move to another one. When an athlete is in a situation that they are feeling threatened, their stress response is activated. The way they respond demands on how serious the threat is. The response is controlled by 2 parts of the nervous system, sympathetic nervous system and parasympathetic nervous system. The sympathetic system is responsible for the reflex called flight or fight. This gives people the energy to run or to retaliate to the threat. Responses include dilated pupils, increased heart rate, increased breathing rate, digestion slows, slow metabolism, hair stands up. Once the stress for the threat has passed, the parasympathetic system starts to kick in. This system helps the person to relax. It produces this by giving the following responses. Pupils constrict, heart rate decreases, breathing rate decreases, blood goes to all major organs, increased metabolism, increased saliva production. An example of this would be in rugby. When a prop is running at a winger with a ball, the winger needs to decide whether to tackle the prop or not. So at first, the sympathetic nervous system will kick in. His heart rate will start to increase because he knows that if he gets it wrong, it's going to hurt. He'll get an increase in adrenaline so that he has the energy and the mental state to tackle the player. After the tackle is made, or after the game, he will start to relax, his pupils will constrict, his heart rate will decrease. His metabolism will also start to increase. Next, I'm going to talk about anxiety. It's the result of interaction between the individual and the environment, a response to the demands placed upon the individual. A reference definition: a negative emotional state with feelings of nervousness, worry or apprehension associated with activation or arousal of the body. This is from a book published by Matt Jarvis called Sports Psychology from USA, 1999. There are two types of anxiety: trait anxiety and state anxiety. Trait, this is an aspect of a person's behavioural pattern. It is the way in which they behave to being threatened and how they feel. Even when there's no threat being given, the person will respond with a high level of state anxiety. State anxiety, this is a temporary mood state that is always changing. It is an emotional response to situations considered to be threatening, however they may not be. An example of this would be a long jumper. Before they do the jump, they're feeling a heavy sensation of state anxiety. Then as they start to run, they may go back. They may start to go but come back before they take off. There are different types of anxiety: cognitive, somatic and behavioural responses. Firstly, I'm going to talk about cognitive anxiety. This type of anxiety refers to the negative thoughts, nervousness that people experience in different situations. Sorry about that. Symptoms for this type of anxiety include concentration problems, bad decision making, or even fear. When a person's concentration levels drop, there will be a negative effect on them, meaning that their performance level also drops. This happens because the levels of anxiety and arousal increase, further due to the amount of mistakes a performer would be making. This means that there is also a chance of an increase in levels of cognitive anxiety. An example of this would be in American football. A quarterback receives the ball and takes their time thinking of rather passing or running, and because of the hesitation, the person gets tackled by the opposition and loses possession. Some more symptoms of this cognitive anxiety is loss of confidence and feeling weak or rushed. The next is somatic anxiety. This is a performer's perception of physiological changes that are happening to them in a particular situation, such as sweating. This could be a performer coming back from injury and the heart rate increasing before the competition. The athlete realizes their heart is increasing and they may see this as a negative side, so they start to get anxious. Symptoms would be dry mouth, voice distortion, twitching, or, as I've mentioned, an increase in heart rate. The last response is behavioural response. This is a performer's pattern to respond to situations when experiencing stress. A gymnast is waiting for their turn to perform. They could be sat, biting their fingernails or covering their face with their hands because they are stressed. Another symptom would be avoiding eye contact, fidgeting, playing safe, for example, instead of shooting, passing the ball in football or basketball, inhibited movements or going through the motions. Now I'm going to talk about the effects on sport that anxiety has. These are negative mental state, loss of self-confidence, decreased expectations of success and failure, and also fear of failure. Negative mental state. This is characterized by worry and apprehension. The definition of anxiety suggests this. It's suggesting that if this negative mental state becomes too much, a performer will worry too much, therefore their performance will drop dramatically. An example would be Roger Federer worrying about his next match. He may miss practice or may not perform as hard in practice, meaning that his performance in the game will take a major decrease. Next is loss of confidence. An athlete may be worried about their next competition / opponent. They would think negatively, which would knock their confidence. Because they would not be confident going into the game, their performance would be very poor. Also, because of the worrying, they would have a decreased expectation of success. Again, decreasing confidence and performance. An example would be Amir Khan finalising the fight contract with Floyd Mayweather. He may not be very confident because he's going up against a very experienced fighter that's considered the best pound for pound fighter in the world, meaning that his odds are stacked against him. This would mean he'd have also has an expectation of success because of the cards against him. The expectation of success would be very much decreased. The fear of failure. Most athletes fear failure. For example, David Haye, the boxer, called off a fight against Tyson Fury because he knew he may not win the fight. However, he did not say this. So instead of fighting, he didn't turn up and blamed it on a shoulder injury. However, he did fight and was still fearing failure during the fight. He may have tried something he wouldn't normally do, such as opening his guard too much for a strike that he wouldn't normally do. This means that his concentration level has dropped dramatically, meaning his whole performance has dropped too, meaning that he will lose the fight. That is anxiety, and that is also the end of my presentation. Thank you for listening.